This is a continuation series, as we have done 3 divisions already, and today with the NFC South makes 4. The NFL is less than 4 weeks away, and we are all excited about that, myself included. As you guys know, we do 5 to 6 players per video, and also as you guys know, I always start every video asking you to like the video and subscribe to the channel, so if you already haven't done that, please go ahead and do so. Now let's begin. And the first player for today's video that breaks out in 2020 is Antoine Winfield Jr. of the Bucs. Winfield was a second-round pick for the Buccaneers in what was a very strong draft class for them. Of course, with the certain quarterback they signed this offseason, that gets overshadowed, but Winfield Jr. is in a prime position to break out. The Bucs defense last year wasn't that bad as the points given up suggests. They gave up the 5th most points in the NFL last year, but remember, they had a quarterback on their team that threw several pick sixes and all in all 30 interceptions, so there were plenty of times where Jameis put them in a bad situation. On top of it, the Bucs had 41 turnovers, which is by far the most in the league. Now you may ask, why is this relevant for discussing Antoine Winfield Jr.'s breakout 2020 season? Now it is relevant because he's not just a second-round player going to a horrendous defense, with upper management saying go make the best of a terrible situation. In fact, it's nearly the opposite. This defense has great players on it, with players like Levante David, Devin White, and of course the big man in the middle, Vita Vea. The Bucs were about average in yards they gave up last season as a defense, but they gave up the 7th fewest yards per play. And this is where Winfield Jr. can cause problems for opposing offenses, is being the Swiss Army knife of the Bucs defense. He had 7 interceptions as a Gopher last year and should have won the Thorpe Award. Ultimately, he did not, but by being around good defensive players like we mentioned, with White, David, and Vea, they will only help Winfield out and tell him what to look for in both the run and the pass game. And practicing against players like Tom Brady, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans will only finely tune his instincts and what to look for in an NFL offense. Winfield fell in the draft, but will prove to be a great second-round pick. And we head to New Orleans to discuss the next player for today's video, and that's Marcus Davenport of the Saints. Davenport was drafted back in 2018 in a bit of a stunning move by New Orleans, as they gave up 2 first-round picks to acquire what they thought was an elite pass-rushing prospect. In 2 seasons, Davenport has 10.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and perhaps his most impressive stat, 28 quarterback hits. He has played in 26 of the 32 games during that span and could really break out this year. He plays in a defense opposite of Cam Jordan, and if you know anything about the Saints defense, then you know Cam is an absolute beast. The way his peers speaks about him is volumes, and now playing opposite of him greatly benefits Davenport because opposing offensive line have to account for Cam. Having said this, Davenport will get a lot of one-on-ones, and he took some serious strides between year 1 and year 2, and although he only went from 4.5 to 6 sacks, he had 3 forced fumbles in 13 games and had an impressive 16 quarterback hits. Davenport was drafted at a UTSA as a project pick, and he was drafted into a pretty good situation, as not only is Cam on the defensive line to take away some pass protection being sent his way, but the secondary is solid with players like Marshawn Lattimore and Marcus Williams. Having those guys back there, along with offenses always having to account for Demario Davis on top of it, leave Davenport in a great situation to break out in 2020. Now, while I don't think he will be a 17-sack Defensive Player of the Year candidate, I definitely don't think it's out of the equation for him to have 11 sacks, 4 to 5 forced fumbles, and over 20 quarterback hits. If he does that, the Saints will be very pleased with their investment, and this type of play could lead them to a Super Bowl win. And next is the player on today's thumbnail, which is Panthers quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy will be the Panthers starting quarterback and will hopefully start all 16 games for the first time since 2015 after a horrific knee injury on the last day of practices before the regular season in 2016 completely derailed his career. He filled in for future Hall of Fame quarterback Drew Brees in 2019 and did a great job for the Saints during that time, as he was 5-0 as a starter, threw 9 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, and completed 68% of his passes. Translating Teddy's statistics from the games he started last year to a full 16-game season would be 16 wins. Yeah, I know that's not going to happen this year, but it's still 16 wins. Nearly 4,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, all to just 6 interceptions. He goes into a situation not nearly as good as he had it in New Orleans, with throwing to players like Michael Thomas, Jared Cook, and Alvin Kamara out of the backfield, but it's certainly not a bad situation either. He, of course, has 2019 first-team All-Pro Christian McCaffrey and an emerging star receiver in DJ Moore. For the Panthers to be relevant this year and really compete, they will need to be able to put up points, as they play in a division with quarterbacks like the aforementioned Breeze, Matt Ryan, and Tom Brady. Teddy will need to break out and be a Pro Bowl player for the second time in his career. Now, DJ Moore put up great numbers last year with Kyle Allen throwing him the football, and I definitely think it's safe to say Teddy is better than Kyle Allen. Anyways, with defenses having to account for Teddy, this could lead to McCaffrey being an even bigger threat out of the backfield, as Teddy always has to be accounted for. While he isn't Lamar Jackson back there and won't ever rush for 1,000 yards like Lamar did in 2019, he can very easily rush for 300 yards and 4 to 5 touchdowns. Similar to what Aaron Rodgers was out of the pocket-wise in his prime, he could take a broken play and rush for 10 to 15 yards while keeping the drive alive. Now, to be 100% clear, Teddy will not throw for 45 touchdowns to 6 interceptions like Rodgers did, but he can throw for 4,000 yards, 28 to 30 touchdown passes, and genuinely keep the Panthers in games. And because of all of this, he will break out in 2020. And next is Falcons tight end Hayden Hurst. Hayden enters the 2020 season as a third-year, 27-year-old player who really hasn't done too much so far in his NFL career. However, that's not entirely his fault, as Mark Andrews broke out and became what looks like the Ravens' starting tight end for the next 5 to 7 years. Anyways, the Falcons traded for Hurst this offseason, and what I thought was crazy is they gave up a second-round pick for him. To me, that really speaks volumes of how Hurst is valued by other NFL teams, and that the Falcons truly think they have a diamond in the rough with Hurst. 43 catches in 2 years and just 4 starts during that time doesn't scream giving up a second-round pick, but I think with them giving that up and the talent they think they have in Hurst, he will have a breakout in 2020. Now, Hurst isn't your typical young gun tight end because he tried a pro career in baseball, and we know now that didn't work out, so it's not like the Falcons fleeced the Ravens and have their guy for the next 10 years like we saw with Minkah Fitzpatrick and the Steelers, but they could have their guy for the next 4 to 5 to 6 years. In this same offense, Austin Hooper put up back-to-back 70-catch seasons in 2018 and 2019, and that's with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley being on the team. Normally, I am a little worried about the spread of the football, but the Falcons have proved that they can have 3 players with 60 or more receptions, as they have done that now 2 seasons in a row. While I certainly don't expect Hayden to be a 90-catch, 1,100-yard tight end and become a first-team All-Pro, I certainly don't think it's out of the question for him to have very similar production to what Hooper had the past 2 years. And to further back this, the Falcons gave up a second-round pick for him, so unless he shows up to camp this year just astronomically bad, then they are going to feed him the ball and carve out some of the game plan for him. It's just all there is to it. They will throw him the ball between 4 to 6 times a game, and with Hurst only having 43 career catches, I think he will have more catches in 2020 than he did in both 2018 and 2019 combined. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps a ton. I appreciate all the support. And if you ever have video suggestions, please let me know, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.